Hello everybody, this vlog is a vlog to recap the ethical considerations and reflect upon how I've used ethics in a pilot study in my master's. I piloted my PhD topic in my master's, an ethical consideration in Abu Dhabi while I was researching my topic was one of the very big features of my research. Using the CERD framework, I would like to focus on the letter R in the framework, which stands for relationships. And in particular, my focus is cultural sensitivity, which is heightened by the climate in which I undertook my fieldwork and my research. While reading an article by Stutchbury and Fox, 2009, I came across Seed House 2009, and a very pertinent part about reading this article was the considerations of research and the consequences that research had for oneself, the individual, and the larger society that the research was being conducted in. And this is what formed the basis of most of my ethical considerations. As a teacher who worked in the government sector, my first port of call to gain clearance for my research was the Ministry of Education in Abu Dhabi, as this is where my research was being conducted. To quote Stutchbury and Fox, 2009, all research undertaken in situations which involve people interacting with each other will have an ethical dimension to it. My second port of clearance was the local Abu Dhabi Education Council. This council had a very similar guideline in terms of ethics that compared very closely with the guidelines in BERA. The third port of clearance that I had to undergo was from the principal of my school. I had to make it very clear why I was doing the research and how I was going to go about it. Several meetings were held with my principal, and using the resource from Cresswell helped me to understand that the information given to the gatekeeper was something extensively done, and it had to be really clear. For example, why was the site chosen and what resources were required, the timing of the research, how would it be accomplished, and what was the potential for disruption to occur. These are just some of the things that I had discussed with my gatekeeper. The fourth port of clearance was a very important part of my ethical consideration, and that was parental permission. Since my participants were under the age of consent, under the age of 16, parental permission was a must. This type of ethical consideration required a lot of reassurance, especially with anonymity and sensitivity towards the particular culture and the minority culture that I was working within. A lot of the ethical consideration in terms of participants revolved around a cultural but also a religious capital that governed this society. So basically doing no harm in terms of respecting the feelings and the attitudes of this particular culture and religion was paramount for me in this case. While undergoing my research and my fieldwork, I had a picture in my mind of 3 words that said, "Do no harm." And the consequences, if there was harm, was always at the back of my mind. So I had to tread very carefully with all the groups of people. And if at any point participants felt uncomfortable, they were informed that they had the right to withdraw at any stage of the research. And this was respected from the beginning of the process right until the very last minute that the research had ended or the investigation had ended. One of the examples I have of how I tried to be sensitive towards the culture within which I was working was the use of a see-through glass door that I had used during my conducting of semi-structured narrative interviews. The reason for this was that this was a very open culture, and it was frowned upon in this particular society to have a closed door. And without this, I think I would have raised suspicion as to my activity or my interaction with female Emirati students who were my participants. So the glass door allowed a certain kind of openness that was well received in the school that I was conducting my research in. Participants and parents were reassured of privacy and anonymity. Pseudonyms were used in my field report when I wrote up my dissertation, so this continued into my writing up process, where the privacy of participants was totally respected. Another type of cultural consideration that had to be adhered to was the fact that I was not allowed to video record or audio record female participants in this particular cultural setting. This also had a religious capital to it, where the modesty of female participants was highly respected, and this was a norm across the culture of the country itself, being Islamic, and the culture of Abu Dhabi in particular, where female Emirati Bedouin students, anonymity and privacy was highly regarded as important to their lifestyle. In the time that I spent, which was quite a short time that I spent researching my topic in this context, the balancing act for me was keeping the integrity of the research, as well as trying to do no harm and maintain ethical composure at the same time. This was a tricky balance for me. And something I had read over in Stutchbury and Fox 2009, where it points out that the duty to act ethically is sometimes at loggerheads with the integrity of the research. But to my surprise, gaining the trust of the different groups of people I was dealing with had made this process easier, or easier to balance, may I say. So, looking at Seed House's ethical framework, I was very much delighted to know that I had struck a balance between the integrity of my research as much as I could, while still respecting and working in harmony with the different types of people and the different groups that I was involved with. And this is the end of my little podcast. I'd like to thank the Open University for the excellent resources that you have provided me on ethics, and in particular the Stutchbury and Fox article, which has informed me tremendously. Thank you very much.